Megan, do we have a quorum?
We have a quorum.
Rich,
You can proceed.
Okay, I'll
Thank
call
you.
the meeting to order. And I'd like to have a motion to approve the minutes of December 3rd.
I make the motion to approve the December 3rd minute.
May I have a second, please?
I second.
All those in favor, any discussion, excuse me? Hearing none. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Hearing none, the motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much.
Chairman, I'm going to go. I wish you all the best.
Okay.
I wish you everybody happy holidays, both the chairman, and keep the good work. I sent the questions already in your email as well as to Megan. So please make sure you make that part of the minute. Thank you.
Okay,
Okay.
same.
God bless.
Thank you,
Bye,
Bobby.
John. Good seeing you, John.
Bye, Bob.
Bye-bye.
Rich? How would you like to proceed here?
Where are you?
Okay, I'd like to share on the screen some of the information that I sent to the committee. At the last, let's share it. No, next one. Yeah. At the last meeting, we were, there were a lot of questions around the $33 million in expense savings. Let me just scroll down a little bit. What this tries to do, the left column, the current budget package, shows the amounts that are in the package, the 35-page packet of the budget presentation. And what I've said to the committee is this alternative presentation. If you look at it, the one thing I'd like to do is on the next page, I took amounts from the October financials and I wanted to share with everybody. The top line here is the budgeted expense for all of the year of 2020. The actual expenses through October were the amounts shown of that 526 million, the second line, the total column. What I then did is I backed out the COVID-related expenses because those won't recur. Those were covered by the CARES Act. So our actual expenses through October is $503 million. When you annualize that, basically the way I annualized, I took 12/10 of that because that's 10 months worth of expense. The actual amount is that we should see is the 603,794. When you compare that to our budgeted expenses for the year of 638 million, we currently will have a savings by the end of the year of that 34,721. Okay.
Now, Rich, I have a question for you.
Okay.
But that's not a pickup in salary. That's an overall pickup.
Yes, of that 27.9 is salary and fringes to the left of that, and almost 7 million is OTPS.
Okay, good. All right, good.
Okay, now I want to go back up to the page before to show you where that 34.7 comes in.
Okay.
If you look, the top line, I start with the budget, and the savings from the budget is that same 34.7.
Yeah.
And highlighted amount. If I were to include that in the presentation, the budget package as an alternative to just starting with the budget, all the other numbers stay the same, but the expense reductions of 33.5 now show that we're going to spend $1.2 million more than we're currently spending this year overall.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just trying to demonstrate to everybody to prove that we've already saved the savings that we're incurring, that we're showing in the budget, because we've suppressed I hate to use the word suppressed, but we've limited our staff throughout this year.
Right.
And the budget contemplates staying at that lower staffed level in order to achieve those savings. Okay?
Okay. All
Let
right.
me just scroll down 2 pages from. And this is the detail that I know I've shared with everybody. I just wanted to show you. When you look at it by department, these are where the savings occurred this year. And I won't go through it line by line, but you can see it's throughout the whole house at Newmick. And I truncated it at one point so you didn't have a list that was like 4 pages long.
Mhm.
And then the next group of this is the savings we saw at A Holly as well. But there's a 289 of FTE savings or full-time equivalent savings at Newmick. And then A Holly, we had similar results with the geriatric being the biggest because that's where most of the residents are. That's another 87 FTEs that we saved from budget during 2020.
Rich, does this include positions not filled?
Yes, everything. Anything that we budgeted for, if we held it and didn't hire people back, it's all of that, yes.
So now, so where would agency staffing costs fall in?
This is only salary. We have similar savings in agency. That's covered in OTPS.
Okay, all
But
right.
it's strictly employees and what we did with our staff.
But what I'm thinking is that if we get in the pinch, you'll expand agencies people as opposed to full FTEs.
Yes, but we've contemplated, as we talk to all the departments throughout the budget process,
Yeah,
to the extent that people did replace people they lost with agency, we would have maintained that at that level. Actually, in nursing, the agency did go up by about $2 million.
okay.
So I
But
want to
that's
be
all-
clear on this, Rich. This is the savings from 2020, is that,
From our 2020 budget, yes.
and the staffing going into 2021 will be the same as it at the end of 2020?
Yes, within $1 million, yes.
There'll be no further reductions in staff in 2021, is that correct?
Well, in the budget, no. Because if you go back up to that first page I showed you, it actually shows that we're going to spend about $1 million more than we're currently spending this year. Yeah, right there. You see, when we put in the 34 million of savings that we've incurred this year to date, the budgeted amounts that we have in the 2021 budget, there's actually that 1.2 million of expense reductions is actually more expenditures because it's a negative amount. In the original presentation, we showed that there's $33 million in savings with a starting point of the budget. But if we compare it to what our current spend level is now, we're going to spend a little more than what we're going to be reflecting in the year-to-date numbers at the end of this year.
You lost me there a little, Rich. Are we going to have the same number of employees, or are we going to have more or less in 2021?
There's going to be a little more for a couple reasons. The additional bodies that we have that's covered by the CARES Act for the COVID screening for all visitors and for patients. That's one piece of it. There's additional staffing for the observation unit. And there's additional staffing in the labs. And the labs and the screening are COVID driven, and we have CARES Act revenue to offset that, at least for the first 6 months.
That's what that was.
Okay. I see that 33.5 million expense reductions, and that was a lot of debate the last time we discussed the budget. Is that now included in the 2021 budget or not?
Yes, it was before and it is, yes. I was just trying to point out that you see the 33.5 of
Yeah, I do.
expense reductions. This is just an alternative presentation to show in the first discussion that we had, we started with our budgeted loss for 2020. Using that same starting point, but then reflecting what we've already achieved this year of the 34.7. Those expense reductions, what it basically is telling you is it's already been achieved. So starting with the budgeted amount in 2020, we have to show that we have budgeted expense reductions of 33.5. But when you compare it to where we are today and what we're anticipating that will be under budget for this year, the expense reductions have already occurred. And it's built into the budget to be retained and to keep that staffing that low.
John, if I could, what happened at the last meeting was, and Rich and I cleared this up afterwards, was that the way it was presented, I was taking it that from a cash perspective, that there was a pickup of every year in those 4 years that he projected forward. And that's not, and I was misunderstanding his presentation, and I think it was a little unclear. What the issue is that there has been a pickup of 34.7 million. And so there was a reduction in cash expenditures during the course of this year of 34.7 million. On a go-forward basis, we don't pick up an additional 34 million every year, but we start with a running rate that's 34 million lower every year. Okay, so that savings continues on. It doesn't, but it's not additional. It just is built into our run rate. So from a cash perspective, it was a one-time pickup, and then we move on from there. So once we got that clarified, I understood what he was doing. If that makes any sense to you.
Well, I'm still kind of concerned because when I see a expense reduction, I look to ask where it is. And if I can't, and if it's not in personnel, I don't know where it is. So I get kind of fogged out by that, Bob.
Yeah, you know what some of the confusion is, but this is the way that Rich put the budget together. But he's using the 19, God, that shows my age. It's a wonder I didn't say 18. He's using the 2019 budget numbers as the base, which kind of causes some confusion. From 2020 going to 2021.
That's why it's only 1.2.
Yeah. So it creates some confusion, but
That's why we're only going up 1.2, right?
yeah. But I'm comfortable with it because I understand now from a cash perspective, we got to pick up theoretically, not theoretically, we spent 34 million less in the current year.
Can I see the questions? Oh, just
So, but on a go-forward basis, we don't pick up 34 million every year in addition. It's a one-time cash pickup, and then we start at that point every year.
Yeah, I just to add to that, Bob, when we looked at the multi-year cash flows, it was prepared in March before COVID, and it used the 2020 budget, which is at that higher staffing level.
Yep.
And not knowing that our staff was going to be dropped by that much at that time, we just ran that out. We, finance collectively, ran out that staffing for each of the next 4 years. When we now budget at a lower staffing level, it does have a roll-up effect every year, because if we maintain this staffing for the next 4 years,
Well, yeah.
we will be saving that off of what we historically had staffed this facility at.
No, I understand that, but I don't want to go back into this discussion, but I understand. I understand what you're saying.
Okay. Let me just show you, because the last page of this presentation here, at the last meeting, besides the details, and John, to your point, here's all of the detailed savings, all of those that we just went through, the FTEs by NUMIC and by AHP. But this is our RN staffing guidelines that Janice Pater's summarized at the request of the committee. I asked her to do this. And as you see there are staffing ratios for each of our units. You can see the surgical ICU, medical ICU, coronary ICU, and burn. And as you scroll down, and I know we've sent this to all of you, so you could have seen it already. The regular med-surg floors are further down. There are no state mandated ratios, but there are guidelines that we use, and there's the med-surg units of 1 to 8 and 1 to 10, and it depends on what patients we have there and the severity and comorbidities. But I'll leave that at that. I just wanted to share with the committee that the staffing ratios, we're not doing anything unsafe. Our current population is at the budgeted levels. Today, we have an average daily census of 323. We budgeted at 322, and our staffing levels are at what we reflected in the budget. And I would leave it to the clinicians to tell you whether that's safe or not, but we wouldn't operate a facility that wasn't safe.
This was a question that Bobby had brought up in the last meeting.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
The state law, though, just requires the hospital to do adequate staffing for its complement and the type of services that it provides.
Right. On the next, just go to the cash flows. To the point that Bob just raised, we just redid the cash flows based upon the anticipated, the proposed 2021 budget. And what I did here is I started, if you look at the left-hand column up on top, the January 1 cash balance, I left at 0. Now, at the last meeting when we went over to October financials, we have $229 million in cash right now. I left the January balance at 0, so I didn't consider any of that, just to show on the right side of this, you just scroll over. Yeah, all the way over to the total column. A little more. Yeah, now if you just scroll down, on this, you can see that what we're gonna burn through this year is $42.6 million that if we didn't have any cash, that would be a deficit.
Right.
What that includes is receiving money from the county that they owe us currently. And you see that up above, in April at 16 million and then June at 8 million. Bob has been discussing this with the county, and that totals to 24 million. It seems like we're going to get about 25 million. The only other thing I added to that in November is that we bill them about 6 million more than they pay for us. So the cash flows anticipate that they would pay us for that. So there's not another buildup as we go forward.
I thought it was 29 million they're going to give us.
It is 29 million, yeah.
29, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rich, explain
deal's
to the
gonna be-
committee about how much over we are and what they're paying and how you get to that number.
We have a number of issues outstanding from 2013. We've been talking to the county and provided them with billings that we had provided to them in the past. We originally had a compromise of 16.5 that they were going to pay us before COVID hit. They then held back on that because of COVID. And since then, they asked for an additional $8 million in billings that we had provided. We provided them most everything what they asked for. And what they are proposing to do at the 29 million is basically pay all of the back amounts through 2019. The 16 million 5 was through 2018.
What is it for? What are these amounts for, Rich?
About 10 million of it is for utilities over the last couple of years. And the utilities relate to the jail that the power plant goes through our shared facilities. Besides that, the primary other piece of it is retiree health and termination pay for people who were employees of both the county and the Public Benefit Corporation after separation. Other than that, there are small amounts for Department of Social Service nurses and rent that the county rents from us, everything from the medical examiner to a couple other small areas.
So the arrangement is whatever money we owe them versus whatever money they owe us, you offset those and you come to a net number, and that's how it gets reconciled?
Yes. Yeah, because we bill them and they pay our principal and interest on our bonds, which they guarantee. For the current year, they're paying $16 million in principal and interest on those bonds. And we bill them for all of those services and the retiree health and the termination pay. Termination pay being vacation and sick time accrued for people who are retiring. We bill them for that and they pay our debt However, over the last couple of years, from 2013 forward, that this balance has accumulated because our billings to them were about 6 million more than they were paying on our behalf. And this is really the settling up of that.
Okay.
Let me just go down to the next slide because there's a lot of numbers and I don't want to just go to the next page.
Rich, I want to ask you a question before you get on there.
Yep, okay,
Wait, don't go away from that 42 million.
okay.
Now, and then I want to say something about the settlement because I'd like to have the committee kind of agree to the settlement. But that 42 million, I think it's I like the way Rich did that because that shows you if we start with zero in terms of how much money we're going to take in, how much money we're going to spend, and how much cash we're going to spend more than we take in. So
Right.
that's a good thing for us to understand, just so we understand that we're in a negative, position here. But now that 42 million though does not include the night shift payments, right?
That's correct. It has about 66 million
Yeah.
of night shift deferral amounts that we do not have to pay.
Right. So I want the committee to understand that and actually I think we're disagreeing on this because I think it's 84 because the 2 million we pay is for arrears. And it won't be until 2024 that technically we pay the arrears. So we're really paying 84 million. That's from the way I see it anyways. But also, okay, let's go with 66. So if you put 66 onto that 42, you're talking about $108 million in terms of cash that we are going to spend more than we're going to take in 2021 because the state is kind of tentatively agreeing to subsidize that $66 million that we owe them. If they didn't subsidize that, we would be in a problem with the night shift payment. So I just want everybody to understand that it's really $106 million in terms of the actual cash if we didn't have that subsidy, because the night shift subsidy is an extraordinary subsidy that doesn't come to us by right through the dish payments or IGT. So, and that's something that could go away. We're negotiating that, but still it is a risk issue. I just want the committee to understand that, and the board.
Just to be clear here, Bob, night shift is the healthcare costs of the current employees, correct?
Well, and retirees too, yeah.
And retirees.
Yeah.
What is the annual premium there and what's the arrangement?
The annual premium right now, I think, Rich, is about $84 million a year. Isn't that right?
Yes.
Okay. And so what happened was in April of 2019, night shift was coming to us and we were in technical default because we stopped making payments. So there was an agreement made and it started in August of 2019, that we would pay $2 million a month by the end of the month, the fourth, whatever it is, of the month. And that would go to pay off the arrears. At that point in time, we owed them $105 million. So if you think of that $2 million a payment for arrears, that would be about a 5-year payment through 2024. Okay.
Mhm.
Now, in addition to that, we've continued to accrue the 84 million premium. So our outstanding balance, the night shift, it exceeds $160 million right now.
That's right, yeah.
So the state is subsidizing that cash right now for us. But I need to have everybody understand that, and they haven't said they're going to, force us to pay it. But that subsidy is contingent upon year to year to year, and the division of budget approving it, because technically we owe $160 million cash that we haven't paid. And that if they decided to pull that plug on that, we would be in trouble. And also the fact that and I want everybody to understand, we do have $200 and some million in the bank because of the DSRIP one-time shots, and the 120 million we got in CARES Act, and the 26 million we got from Medicare advances. But just if night shift alone pulled the plug, that would suck 160 million in cash right out of the door. So
where is that liability shown?
it's Well, Rich will tell, it's
Yes.
shown in there. It's built into the budget. It looks as if we're paying it, but it's built into the budget.
But we're
Yeah,
not
it-
paying it, right? I mean, we're not even covering the arrears at this point, right?
Well, no, we're covering the arrears. We're paying it $2 million a month.
But that'll take 5 years and we haven't paid on the, and
That's true. I just,
More and
yeah,
more
we need to
will
understand
approve.
that's a problem. Yeah, that is a risky position we're in. That's why I want you to understand that.
Yeah, that's in our accounts payable to NISHIP. It's accounts payable on the balance sheet. And like Bob said, it has grown from 100 million to presently about $160 million.
So it's a red flag.
that's something the finance committee should absolutely appreciate. We have a
Yes.
huge liability out there.
Yeah. And we're subject to, see, if it was, we get every year, we get money from the disproportionate share. We get a reimbursement based upon a formula by right. And so this has nothing to do with that. We still get, I don't know, what we get, $40 million, Rich, or something like that from IGT and additional that stuff. So that's by right. And we should expect that. But this money is subsidized every year by the good graces of the state, so to speak. But we're not getting it by right. So I'm always concerned about that because that could be a problem at some point in the future.
Correct.
Okay?
Yep.
Thank you for clarifying that. That's useful to know.
Okay.
Yeah, let me just, if you just scroll down one page on this, I'll show you some of that's included in the, yeah, can we make that a little small? Because I hope everybody can see that. But these two reconciliations here, what I've done here, just to show you, to show how the budget dovetails into the cash flows. On the left side, that blue bar, I start with our budgeted loss of $116 million. And the point we just made is I'm pulling out $64.2 million of health benefits. The 84 that Bob was just talking about in the budget is at 88.2 because we anticipated an increase in the premiums. But you can see that we get bills of 88.2 and we pay 24 million, or the 2 million that Bob just mentioned. So that there's the savings of the 64 million of expense we have in the budget that we do not have to pay in cash. Depreciation is a non-cash.
Right. Yep, right.
That's just a routine thing.
Mhm.
And then the county billings, because we're getting prior year amounts, that's cash that we're receiving from the county that is a one-time thing. Going forward, there would be $6 million, and the 24 has changed, like Bob said, to 29. And then the investment income is just something above the line. It's not a big amount. Then what we have to do on the flip side, we're paying the pension, but we have prior year deferrals that the pension plan allows us to delay and pay later. And that's to the tune of $6.4 million that's added to the current bill for the pension. And then the county billing, the revenue is what we talked about. It's a non-cash item because they pay principal and interest on our behalf. And then the last item is capital expenditures. That is a cash use. That's not an expense. So when you add all of those amounts up that I just mentioned, the 116 loss is that cash shortfall on the prior page of the $43 million. Another way on the right side in the green is the last time the committee met, we were talking about an annual projected deficit of $130 million a year. With the budget initiatives and with the savings we've incurred this year, that's 51 million, that 51.3 is what we will save going forward from the staffing that we historically had. And then the one-time amount is the payments from Nassau County of the 24 million that we have on that left side, plus the 6 million routine. And then the all other changes, I didn't want to detail them all, but that's just the small amounts. But our projected deficit is that same 43 in the detailed schedule on the prior page.
Okay, I'm still struggling with this question of savings. And I know Bob seems to be comfortable with it, so honestly, I'm not. But when I see savings, I expect to see a reduction in personnel or something like that. So I'm hung up on that, quite frankly.
But John, to the point, we have reduced our staffing. We started on the budget.
In 2020, you did it. And I don't see how it affects 2021, quite frankly.
If we went back to the staffing levels that we anticipated at the beginning of this year, we would hire back about 300 people. And that would be what the budget would be. And then over the course of the budget, we'd have to reduce that same 300 people in order to get to the budget we have. That's, if you can understand it that way.
No, it's not clear to me, but Bob seems to understand it. So,
It is confusing, John, the way we're being presented. It's confusing, but
to me, straightforward, if a budget says it's savings, I want to see the savings. And I don't think we can demonstrate in 2021, there's 35.5 million in savings.
no, I think the way to say it is, in 2021, we're going to spend $51.3 million less than we did in 2020.
But that's not what it says. The budget
I
presented.
know, I understand that. And that's not even totally accurate because we're putting the 2019 budget in the year. So it makes it even more confusing.
Yeah, and that was because COVID's been so chaotic to us.
Yeah. Yeah. So they're basing the projection. Now, if I'm wrong, Rich, stop me, but they're basing their projections on 2019 because that was a year of some normalcy or
Yes.
normalcy. So that's what it's based on. So if we were looking at a 2019 budget, essentially what this says, in 2021, we'll spend 51 million less than we did in that 2019 budgeted year. That's what they're saying.
Yes.
Now, is that true savings in the course of this year? It really isn't, but that's how it's being presented.
Correct, yeah, because we're holding the staffing we have now, which is 51 less than what we historically would have had if we didn't do that.
So we're
Now,
not,
I'm
we're not
okay with
running
you-
back to the 19 levels.
Right.
I'm okay with using the 2019. I've seen it on other boards because COVID
Yeah.
is unusual. You want
Right.
you don't use the 2020, and I understand that. But I'm still, when I see savings, and maybe it's a nomenclature, but savings to me means that we're going to be spending less. And I see those savings accrued in 2020, not in 2021.
But, maybe if we could say, Rich, would it be wrong to say the 2021 budget maintains previous 2020 savings of 51 million or something like
Yes.
that?
Yes.
Why don't we change the wording? Because that would, does that make a difference to you, John? Because that's what's happening.
But
It's also initiatives that we didn't do yet, that we're gonna do.
Right, yeah, there's two components of, we're talking about the expenses. And if we go
Yeah,
back to
that's
the
true.
prior, let me just go back to that, the prior, that one. Yeah, if we go back to the first page, first and second page.
Well,
Yeah,
so it's
yeah, just go down to the second page. This is, again, off of the October financials, the budgeted amount, that first line there, the 638 million, that's my starting point for my analysis in the budget package.
And that number was what?
638,515,000.
No, but where did you get it?
That's the 2020 budget. That's the starting point where we had budgeted to lose $86 million.
Okay, all right.
What we're actually at annualized is that 603,794. So this year we're saving the 35 million, but if you look back historically, we would have budgeted to spend 638 million every year going forward, let's say. What we've done throughout 2020 is to bring our expenses down to 603,794, the actual annualized. And that's where the savings come in off of what we historically have done.
Right. So, but Rich, you're saying that, but the way you're saying that though is that the savings that you're going to maintain are really savings based upon the 2020 budget, which was passed in 2019. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, yes, and that's the same as 19 actual,
All
because
right,
that's how we budgeted.
So I'm just thinking, to John's point, that couldn't we say that the 33 whatever million in staffing savings couldn't we represent them some ways? They're not necessarily initiatives in 2021 that were the savings of 2020 are going to be maintained as we go forward, or something like that. Because that's the point he's getting hung up on, and I understand what he's thinking.
It's an initiative for 2021 because it's going to be not that easy to do.
To keep
But
it,
it is-
to keep
you're
it
right.
down. You
You're
need to hold it
absolutely
to
right.
that. You
Yeah,
need to
it's-
hold it to that point. So phrase it that way. Say the savings, accrued in 2020 through FTE, whatever it is, however you want
Okay.
to say it, are going to be maintained in 2021.
Okay,
I
That,
think the phrasing should be ongoing.
all right. Okay. That's better. That's better. Okay. That's better. Ongoing.
okay,
And then you capture what John's, the point. Then Jay, he's right. I mean, the point he's raising is right.
okay.
And to John's,
that's my-
point, it's referencing 2019, as you said, a lot of organizations are doing because of the COVID year.
Okay. I think that would be a better way. And then you can present the other initiatives as actual savings in the year.
Okay,
Okay?
And then we can reconcile exactly what's happening in 2021 and attributable to
Right.
2021. That's-
Yeah, exactly.
That's where I want to get to.
yeah, and
I know
just
you-
scroll
And
back up to the
Waylon, we've had a lot
prior
of
page.
discussion here. Any points that you'd like to mention and from what we've discussed so far?
Rich. No.
No, the only thing I was gonna go through is the cash flows. Bob, you had asked for some, the
Yeah.
next attachment.
Right.
Yeah, the last 2 pages or so. Yeah, scroll, yeah, right there. This is just a graphic presentation of what we just talked about. The cash deficits before the 2021 budget was 130 million. With the initiatives that we've built in, that goes down to 73.6 million. With the payments from the county, it goes down to 43.6. And just scroll down so you can see the legend. And then the gold bar is what the deficit going forward would be. And all that's saying is the 43 that we'll see this year goes back up to 67 million because the payments from the county are a one-time pickup. There's a component that keeps going, but our cash deficit going forward grows to the 67 million that's profiled there.
So where does the district come in?
That's in our opening balance, Bob.
I mean, in this graph, where would you place the district dollars?
There are no more different district dollars, so
Right.
the district is zero in all of these amounts.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. All right. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
And then the next slide just shows that same 67 million current cash deficit going forward. What we've proposed is going to the state and having them treat us like the SUNYs downstate and SUNY Stony Brook. If they pay the other half of the IGT for that and the nursing home component, that's 53.9 that we could get additional state support on top of the night shift support they're already giving us.
Mhm.
And if we add to that about $13 million of additional improvements, at that point, if we maintain the budget as we proposed, and over the course of the next year or two, have additional improvements and revenue initiatives of about 13 million, we would be able to sustain ourselves at a constant cash balance and not be bleeding. And just to summarize, the improvements would be about 57 million with the maturity of the two programs at AHP, and these additional improvements would total to about $70 million of budget initiatives and improvements, and state support of this 54 million in IGT plus the 60 plus in NISHIP, or about 108 million, 110 million of state support. If
So-
we had that 100 million of state support and the 70 million of budget, we would be sustainable on a financial basis.
The 100 million of state support, wait, just to, what are the components of that again? That's,
The NISHIP support of about 66 currently. And the IGT, the other half of IGT of that 53.9 that's shown there in the green bar.
and but that 53.9 IGT is in addition to IGT we already get?
We currently get the 53.9 at the 50%.
Yes, okay, all right.
And if the state treats us like SUNY and pays the local share, we would get an additional 53.9.
Rich, this is pretty speculative to expect the state to pick up local share when they're having budget conflicts. How can we what's the expectation here? It seems to me it's kind of highly speculative.
It's a proposal to do now. We don't expect to see it this year or next. And that's why when I showed you the cash flows, I mentioned that we have $229 million in cash and we're burning through about 43 million of that. That gives us a number of years in order to get the state to provide that support to us.
You mentioned
We
that
won't have that
the
230.
NISHIP share was 66 million. Why isn't it 84? Because we're only paying money towards the arrears, as according to Bob.
Because every year, they're allowing us to defer the difference between the bills and the 2 million a month that we're paying. And that's an ongoing agreement where they agreed to sit back on that. I don't know when that expires, but
It doesn't, the way it's written, it doesn't expire, but to John's point, the actual impact is until the 5 years, until we pay off that arrears, the actual impact is 84 million. I mean, that 24 million is going towards arrears.
Yep.
right, Bob, but on a cash flow basis, we're paying out 24.
All right, okay, all right, that's true. That's, you're right there, okay. And the cash flow basis, you're right, yeah.
But the purpose of this slide is
Cash flow.
they're going to pick up local share and they're going to continue with the NISHIP arrangement. That has to be mentioned somewhere here because standing alone, this represents something that I don't think most people can understand without the background there.
Agreed. Let me just go, if you go to the next attachment and go to one of the last pages. It's, I think, page 12. Yeah, just the one before it. Yeah, 11. This is where, this is the same, pretty much the same numbers we're talking about. And I thought on the bottom of that, I had what the summary was of, yeah, here's what I showed everybody last time. New York State support of NISHIP. I had left it at the 60 million because at that point it was the 84 million. And the Medicaid plan amendment is the additional half of IGT. So the state support that all of what I just talked about, the assumptions are that we would continue to get NISHIP deferral, and we would get additional support of the 53.9 for the other half of IGT. The budget initiatives, we have 57.5 built into the budget. That includes those two programs at AHP being mature in a year. And then the additional we need over the next year or two of 12 million, which we think we could achieve. That's the additional assumption of hitting 70 million in budget initiatives. What this basically says is the state has to help us, but we're also helping ourselves by cutting expenses and continuing to do cuts over the next year or two, at least to the tune of the 12 million. To the extent that we can exceed that 12 million, that would drop the need for additional state support.
So what you're saying that then the 113.9 million is the amount of money that we need.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, that one.
Is the amount of money that we need in addition to the current IGT stuff that we get by right.
Correct.
Okay, so I think that you should say that should be kept, New York State support, or New York State or supplemental support. And then under the nice ship, it should be in parentheses after that current. And then under the Medicaid plan amendment requested.
Because there is no such thing as a Medicaid plan amendment as we stand. It's a
No.
conversation, right?
It's a request. I mean, you know,
I
that's
don't
what
even
it
think
is.
it's that, Bob. It's Rich talking to someone at another county. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm talking to Erie County to go to the state as one, as two public benefit corporations that should be treated like other, you know, like the SUNYs.
Are you talking
think
about
that's-
substitute?
I think that's
Not
far
question.
too aggressive an
Yeah.
assumption then. It's a conversation between two people at the CFO level, and we're putting it as something that we think we can achieve.
Well, I actually, John, I was trying to show it as something that is a stretch. That's why I was trying to categorize it as that.
Yeah, no, this is not in the budget. This was for, the issue that we had with the budget is that everybody was talking about how do we have a plan for sustainability? And this is a proposed way that we could be sustainable.
Mhm.
And it is speculative that, you know, I don't know what the state's going to respond. It's not an unreasonable request since they do it with SUNY. Whether they do it or not is really is a question. All we're addressing tonight is the budget and the first step, like Dr. Booton said in the opening statement to the budget, we have a 2-year window. We think we have enough cash for the next 2 years to achieve all of this. And 53 million of the budget improvements this year, that is a first step in getting to this point of sustainability. It's
So
not going to happen overnight.
why couldn't we label that extra New York State support necessary for sustainability?
Not in the budget.
It's not in the budget, Bob. This was just, this is only to talk to the committee.
Yeah, no, I
The budget
understand. But
writing should be,
but when people look at that, they don't understand it. It sounds like that New York State support is there. And
no.
Take it up.
And
No,
the
I don't know, but-
and the graph you present, Rich, shows it as almost achievable without any dates on it. You know, to me, we have to be, I'm really uncomfortable stating that this is anywhere in the realm of possibility when we have the legislature even thought about this? Has an amendment been proposed?
No, this is only for the committee. The budget does not include it. The graph I just showed you, it said proposed approach to sustainability.
Is there some way maybe we could do, I mean, you present the budget as it is, and then another graph or something in terms of cash flow that shows when we run out of cash, the way we're currently running, what the hole is, which relates to this 113, and that's what the ask is in terms of sustainability. If we don't get it, we're up the creek.
Yes.
Does that make sense, John?
Or we can just take it out altogether.
When I see Medicaid plan amendment,
An aspirational.
he's saying that there's something in the works, and we're so far away from that. It's-
Yeah.
You can't
Jim-
really say those things.
But John, it's not in the budget. This is just an explanation for the committee.
Talking point.
Yeah, to show that if all of this is achieved, ultimately, we could be sustainable. Right now, we're not sustainable. We've gotten going concern opinions. The first step in that is from a projected $167 million loss, we've budgeted $116 million loss with $50 million plus in budget initiatives and savings. That's all, that does not include the Medicaid plan amendment. It does not include the additional budget initiatives of the 12,600,000. It's only what's in the budget. All I was doing is taking that budget and projecting it forward to what we have to do to ultimately be sustainable financially.
This goes though,
This particular screenshot and the graphs at this point are nothing more than an aspirational talking point
right.
and shouldn't be looked upon in any other way.
So though I think then though it needs to be presented differently because if it's presented in the context of the budget, like almost to John's point, it looks like it may be, doable. And in the budget presentation where Tony does his CEO message, he talks about financial sustainability. Maybe there needs to be a section after the budget or as appendix to it, talks about financial sustainability and says, hey, look at the current dollars we're getting so far. We're still 113, we're 113.9 million that we got to get, or at least continue to get, and do it, well, present it differently, present it separately from the budget, as this is what we need to access to be sustainable. And I think that a companion piece to that would be a cash flow projection under our current budget assumptions that shows when we run out of cash, because that tees up the need for this money to be accessed. And if it isn't, then the board needs to make decisions before we get to that point. I mean, from a responsible point of view.
Bob, isn't this what Eva's committee is going to be doing?
It will be, yes, it will be. But this does, though, this points to, this shows the problem. That's, you know what I'm saying?
You
This-
know, I understand.
Yeah.
It
We need
offers,
to solve it. We need to solve this problem, but we got to understand that it's there.
but in the context of talking about the 2021 budget, it doesn't add light. It only adds, to me, confusion. Because this is a different projection of a scenario and a feasibility, which, I'm questioning. But and I know Rich says it's for the committee's purposes, but standing alone, and this is a record, a public record, this needs to be clearly annotated as to what it's saying and
Yeah.
what these items are.
But do you think it shouldn't be in the budget presentation, Jen?
I don't see its purpose, Bob.
Well, it goes to the sustainability comment that the CEO message makes, but maybe it could be
I think it
referenced
should-
as,
I think it should be referred to Eva's committee.
But I think that, like Bob said, if we have a comparison of both, without this, what's going to happen, the loss would to continue, and with this initiative, if it happens, this is what could happen. I don't see anything wrong with having that comparison, and then the committee that Eva have, it'll even give them a footstool to start working with. I don't see anything wrong with the comparison, if you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But separate the two. You should.
I agree, Wayne.
I think the Wayland's point, maybe it shouldn't be part of the budget package. It should be a separate piece that talks about sustainability as a supplemental presentation after the budget.
Yeah, there has to be some segue that gets to this. It shouldn't flow from a budget conversation.
Yeah. Okay.
This is about sustainability longer term.
Okay. All right. I understand what you're saying, John. Yeah. But I also think, I think to Wayland's point too, and he said it better than I did. We got to tee it up for the board so they see the problem, so they understand it. So we don't want to broadside them with it. And it's not going to happen in 21, but it's going to happen later on out. So if we present the budget, the cash flow for 21, we get through 21, then we do a separate section or supplemental that has a cash flow that projects beyond 21 if things don't happen, and we highlight this in there to show what the problem is. It's separate from passing the 2021 budget. Because to your point, John, if we do put it in, I guess if we do put it in, we're going to make the 2021 budget not understandable in many ways.
Yeah, as it is, we're struggling with it, Bob.
I know. So,
Okay, fine. Rich, now, Bobby sent a number of questions, as Bobby is wont to do, and you've answered them. Anybody sent some additional points? Have you had a chance to review those?
No,
Yeah, I looked at them briefly and I'll answer them for him tomorrow. Most of them are clarifications.
Okay, can you take us through the 2021 budget now? The actual budget that you're asking the finance committee to approve?
Sure, it's the next attachment. This, we just scroll down into the narrative. This is the message that Dr. Booton, that we just talked about, that this is the first step in probably at least a 2-year process in order to achieve some semblance of financial stability. And it just sets the stage for what we're trying to do with this budget. Because when you look at budgeted loss, if you just take it out of out of that context, it shows like we're just losing another 100 million and we're not doing anything about it. So, but a lot of what we just talked about in this executive summary, just scroll down. What I talked about before is we're budgeting for 116 million like it shows there. And this is what, starting with a budgeted loss of the 86 million, this is what would have happened with, before we even start the budget. The district going away, the BBP going away, Medicaid cuts, and then the reduction in volume both at A Holly and at our outpatient. That would have took that $86 million loss up by another 61. The CSEA contract being the big thing, the pension increases, the anesthesia contract, all of that, that's another 20 million. We would have had $67 million loss before we did anything this year, which is profiled down below. We have revenue cycle improvements, the observation unit, which is operational. The case mix has gone up. That's just a function of sicker people coming into the hospital. I will change the wording on that reduction of operating costs to profile what John and Waylon just said. And you can see that 51 million, the budgeted loss is 116. If you go to the consolidated financials after this narrative, I know most of you have read this already, and it contemplates everything we have in there. But that just shows you a little further down. It shows, after you'll go down. I'll tell you when to stop. This is the next page. This is the 116 million on a consolidated basis. You can see, just scroll down a little bit, and there's your 116,200. It shows you a profile again of 2019, 2020 projected, and 21 budgeted. And I did make the asterisk for the bottom of that page for, and the asterisk references to the district, the change in presentation there. Just for comparison purposes. The next page just shows by facility what we're going to be losing. 95 at Newmick, if you scroll down, and 20 million in A Holly. The bottom line is a little, right there. The 95.8 in Newmick and 20 million in A Holly. In the last one, we talked about the impact of those new programs that we're implementing this year at A Holly, and what the roll-up impact of that would be in the future. I won't muddy the waters with that tonight. But that's the guts of what's in the budget package. There's graphs in there. There's other details, including the correctional facility. But that's what I'm asking for approval to approve, that we would be, this budget would be at the $116 million loss level after achieving 51 million in budget initiatives and savings.
Okay. Any questions from the committee before we consider whether we want to recommend to the board approval of this budget?
I'd like to do it. Yeah, the only thing I'd like to do is, I don't mind us approving it tonight, but I'd like to approve it pending us getting the final document. And if we have an objection, then we could call it.
Okay.
Is it okay?
Yeah, that's
I'd like to
fine.
see the final document, but
Okay.
but the numbers, I'm okay with the numbers now.
Okay. Jan, comments? Waylon, comments?
I'm good.
Okay. Waylon?
No questions.
Okay. All right. So can I have a motion to, pending the final document, that we recommend that the board approve the 2021 budget?
I move pending the receipt of the final documentation and documents that we approve the proposed budget.
I second.
Thank you very much. Any discussion? Hearing none. Those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstains? Hearing none, the motion carries. Thank you very much.
Okay.
I think that concludes our business for today.
The only one thing is I just want to like to get the committee's approval. We're going to continue on with Mitchell Titus next year for the second year. So, and anybody want to discuss it or?
They're the
the audit-
auditing firm, Bob?
Yeah. Do we have a proposal from them? What the cost is? I saw it somewhere.
No, Bob, but I'll send you something before they didn't give us a proposal. We reached out to them and asked them for their fee.
All right, so we'll get their proposal and then we'll finalize it at the January meeting. That's okay. That's fine.
Well, do we go through a regular RFP process when these things
Well,
happen?
no, this is the second.
We don't need to for this because it's an MWBE. So we don't,
Okay.
we're not required to.
Yeah.
And it would have to go, the contract does have to go to legal audit and would go through the proper approvals that way.
Okay,
Okay, so we'll get the proposal from them.
okay.
Just one bit of new business, John, before, if you were going to break.
Oh, sure, go ahead, Rich.
I just wanted to let everybody know, we got the pension bill. We have the option of paying by tomorrow. It's $38 million and change. In all the past years, we always paid it on February 1st. If we pay it tomorrow, we save $285 million from paying it on February 1st.
185,000.
Thousand, not million.
285, yeah, 285,000, I'm sorry. Yeah, sorry about that.
I'll move it.
It's been a long day.
I was like,
I'll
no,
move
I'm
to
not doing
that.
Okay, no, yeah, it was discussed, and I just wanted to make the committee aware that it's worth the savings for about a 6-week,
Yeah.
because we have.
Yeah,
the
we
year-
have the money, why not save that money, save that?
Exactly.
Thank you so much. Okay.
Could I have a motion to adjourn, please?
I'll move that.
Second.
Okay,
And
thank you
for
all
the
for,
group, either Meg or Tony, I just got to talk to you for a second. Could you just call me when we hang up?
Sure.
Thank
Something
you,
about
everybody.
something about the vaccinations.
I want to
Okay.
thank the committee and the budget people. You did a marvelous job and a lot of
Yeah,
hard
thank you, Rich. Thanks for all the pain we put you through.
Okay, no problem.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Thank you for all
Bye-bye.
your effort.
Thanks, everybody else. Bye-bye.
Right.